Hello everyone, I am Om Krishna Gupta. I am assistant professor in electronics and communication engineering department in Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College, Ghaziabad. This is lecture 18 of the subject analog circuits. In this class, I am going to discuss LC oscillators. So, in LC oscillators, there are two main types of LC oscillator. The first one is the Colpitts oscillator and the second one is the Hartley oscillator. So, I am going to discuss these two oscillators. So, as I have already discussed in last two classes about oscillations, how the oscillations are generated. So, basically oscillator is an electronic device which is used to generate a frequency, a signal of a desired frequency. So, there are various types of oscillators and that has been classified on the basis of different parameters. One parameter is that parameter is on the basis of the component. So, on the basis of the component there are two types of oscillators, one is RC and another one is LC. So, in RC oscillator we use two passive elements, one is resistor and another one is capacitor. In LC oscillator we use two passive elements and these elements are inductor and capacitor. So, in the last class I had discussed the RC oscillators. So, in RC oscillators we had seen that there are two types of RC oscillator, one is a Wien-Bridge oscillator and the another one is phase shift oscillator. So, basically oscillations are generated as per Bark-Hussein criteria and that criteria is the loop gain, that is mod A beta, it should be equal to 1 and the phase shift around the loop it should be 0 degree or that is equivalent to 360 degree. So, this is the criteria for oscillations. So, in order to generate the oscillations these two criteria it should be fulfilled. Now, see, in oscillations as we know that which kind of feedback is required? In oscillator positive feedback is required. In oscillator positive feedback is required. Positive feedback means the output signal is to be added to the input signal through the feedback network, and as we know that two signals it will be added when the two signals are in phase. In phase means the phase difference between these two signal it should be 0 degree, that is equivalent to 360 degree, only then two signals will be added. That is why the total phase shift around the loop it should be 0 degree or 360 degree. Now, in oscillators, in oscillator circuit there are two major part. The first part is amplifier and the second part is the feedback network. And the phase shift provided by this feedback network it totally depends upon the phase shift provided by the amplifier. For example, if the amplifier is the inverting amplifier, then in that case this amplifier will provide 180 degree phase shift. So, another 180 degree it should be provided by the feedback network, that we had seen in phase shift oscillator. In phase shift oscillator we had used the inverting amplifier. So, in order to get another 180 degree phase shift from the feedback network, there we had used 3 RC sections, fine. So, as far as this LC oscillator is concerned, if we use inductor and capacitor, if we arrange inductor and capacitor in such a way that the total phase shift provided by this LC circuit is 180 degree, it means that which kind of amplifier we will require? That is inverting amplifier, right. So, we need to understand that how much phase shift should be provided by the feedback network. That depends upon which kind of amplifier we are going to use, whether we are using inverting amplifier or non-inverting amplifier. Now, coming to this LC oscillator, LC means in LC oscillator we are going to use inductor and capacitor. So, before we go into deep of the LC oscillator, let us first understand that what is this LC circuit. To understand it, let us start with the element capacitor, right. This is capacitor C. Now, see, if this capacitor C is fully charged, means if we connect this capacitor C across a battery and it is fully charged, and if we connect this capacitor C in parallel with inductor, that is this one. So, what will happen? As we know that this capacitor C, it stores electrostatic energy, it stores electrostatic energy, and when this capacitor is connected in parallel with the inductor, then this capacitor will starts discharging through this inductor. It means that this electrostatic energy, it will be converted into magnetic energy. Once this inductor is charged with this magnetic energy, so now the Lenz's law comes into picture. Now, the magnetic field around this inductor starts collapsing. In that case, what will happen? In that case, again this magnetic energy will be converted into electrostatic energy, means now again this capacitor C starts charging. Firstly, this capacitor C is charged, then it is discharged, then again it is charged, but with opposite polarity. This process will continue. Then what is the result? The result is, since this capacitor C, it charges with opposite polarity each time, it means that we will get an alternating current. We will get an alternating current, that is oscillating current. That is the oscillations. It means that when we connect a inductor in parallel with the capacitor, then we will get oscillating current, we will get oscillations. But the issue is that each time this electrostatic energy converted to magnetic energy, then there will be some energy loss. There will be some energy loss. Again, when this magnetic energy is converted back to the electrostatic energy, again there will be some energy loss. So, this energy loss will be there. Each time electrostatic energy will be converted into magnetic energy, there will be energy loss. Then what will happen? For example, if we are getting the oscillating current oscillations like this, then what will happen? The energy will keep losing. It means that after some time this signal will die, there will be no signal. So, this is called decaying oscillations. Decaying oscillation means the oscillations are decaying, it is going to die out, right. So, what is the result? The result is we will not get any oscillations, although the as per the concept obviously we were getting the oscillations, but after some time there will be no oscillations. So, but we want oscillations and we want sustained oscillations, not decaying oscillations, not amplifying oscillations. Amplifying oscillations means if the oscillations keeps increasing, we do not want that. We do not want this decaying oscillations. What we want? We want sustained oscillation. Sustained oscillation means the oscillations are of constant magnitude. So, how can we get it? Since we are getting the decaying oscillations because of this energy loss. So, in order to combat this issue of the energy loss, what we do? We use an amplifier along with this LC circuit, means amplifier plus your LC circuit together, it will form the LC oscillator. So, amplifier is very much important because energy loss is there. So, in order to combat that energy loss, we need amplifier. So, this parallel combination of inductor and capacitor, it is called tank circuit. Tank circuit is also called oscillatory circuit, it is also called tuned circuit, fine. So, this is the concept behind LC oscillations. We are going to use this inductor and capacitor in parallel along with amplifier. So, we have already used this amplifier, right, in RC oscillators. In RC oscillators, we had used inverting and non-inverting amplifiers in Wien bridge and phase shift oscillator. You can refer lecture 17 for that. Now, coming to LC oscillators, the first difference between LC and RC, that you know that in RC oscillator we use resistor and capacitor, in LC we use inductor and capacitor along with amplifier, of course. RC oscillators are used for low frequency, especially for audio frequency range, and this LC oscillators, it is used for high frequency range, normally from 200 kilohertz to few gigahertz. Basically, this LC oscillator, it utilizes this parallel LC circuit that I have discussed, parallel LC circuit, and that parallel LC circuit, it is connected between collector and base. If we are using BJT, then of course in between collector and base, and if we are using MOSFET, that means it will be connected in between drain and gate. So, we can use BJT or MOSFET, any active element for amplification, right, with a fraction of the tuned circuit voltage fed to the emitter. We will see it, we will understand it with the help of circuit, fine. So, basically LC oscillators are of two types, one is Colpitts and another one is Hartley. In Colpitt oscillator we use capacitive divider, and in Hartley oscillator we use inductive divider circuit. Now, this is the Colpitt's oscillator. Now, we can see that in Colpitt oscillator there are two capacitors C1 and C2 and one inductor L, right, and this LC circuit, it is connected between, you can see that it is connected between the two terminals of the BJT, one is your base, another one is the collector, fine. And this resistor R, it models the losses in the inductor and the output resistance of the transistors, etc. the frequency of oscillations of the Colpitts oscillator is 1 upon omega naught, that is 1 upon under root L into C1 C2 upon C1 plus C2. So, in this circuit, this LC portion C1 C2 and L, it provides 180 degree phase shift, another 180 degree we get from this transistor, and emitter is grounded. Now, next one is Hartley oscillator. In Hartley oscillator, just opposite. In Hartley oscillator, two inductors L1 and L2 and one capacitor C is used. So, in Colpitts oscillator, we use two capacitor, one and one inductor, and in Hartley oscillator we use two inductors and one capacitor. So, just to remember it, it is very easy to remember. In fact, Colpitt means C for capacitor. So, in Colpitt oscillator, two capacitor and one inductor. So, just opposite in Hartley, that means two inductors and one capacitor. This is just to remember it, by which we do not get confused, right. So, the circuit is same in Hartley oscillator as like in Colpitt oscillator. The only difference is there are two inductors and one capacitor, and the frequency of oscillation for Hartley oscillator is omega naught is equal to 1 upon L1 plus L2 into C. Now, we can derive the expression of the frequency of oscillations for Colpitts and Hartley oscillator. Once we understand the calculation for Colpitts, we can easily derive it for Hartley. So, to derive it, we will draw the equivalent circuit. Before that, just see to it, this resistor R which is connected in the circuit, it models the combination of the losses of the inductor, the load resistance of the oscillator and the output resistance of the transistor. That is why we have connected that resistor just to represent these things, and in the equivalent circuit we are going to neglect C mu and R pi. As we know that in MOSFET the CGD is very less, gate to drain, because when the MOSFET is in saturation, this gate to drain capacitance is very less. In BJT C mu is very less, that is why we are neglecting it. R pi we are also neglecting it just to simplify the calculations. And the reason is that for MOSFET, for FET, the input resistance is infinite ideally, and practically it is very high. So, R pi is very large, R pi is very large. So, we will see it why we are neglecting this R pi, and another internal capacitance, that is C pi, that is the part of the C2 capacitance. Now, come to the equivalent circuit of the Colpitt oscillator. This is your Colpitt oscillator, and the right hand side circuit is the equivalent circuit of the Colpitt oscillator. Now, see, in the equivalent circuit you can see that the R pi we have neglected, because R pi is very large, right, and it is connected in parallel. So, when the two impedances are connected in parallel, so the higher one is neglected, it can be neglected, that is why R pi is neglected. R pi is very large. In fact, for BJT the R pi is equal to beta plus 1 into Re, right. Beta is very large. So, R pi is very large for BJT, and for MOSFET this input resistance is large, because the input is applied at the gate terminal, and we know that in MOSFET there is an insulator layer. So, the gate current is 0. So, the input resistance is very high for MOSFET, and even for BJT this R pi is large because of the multiplication of this factor beta plus 1. We had seen these things in the small signal analysis of the BJT and MOSFET in unit 1. Now, just let us try to understand the equivalent circuit. Now, this inductor L, it is connected between the collector terminal and the base terminal. So, this inductor L is connected between, this is your base terminal, this is collector terminal, and this ground is your emitter, fine. So, inductor L is connected between base and collector. Capacitor C2, it is connected between, you can see that, emitter and base. So, C2 is connected between base and emitter, emitter is grounded, and this C1 is connected between, this C1 is connected between collector and emitter. So, C1 is connected between collector and emitter, emitter is grounded, and the resistor R is connected between collector and emitter. Again the resistor R is connected between collector and emitter, and this is your dependent source. So, I have already discussed how to draw the equivalent circuit in the unit 1 in a small signal analysis of BJT and MOSFET, right. Now, see how we solve it. See, the voltage across C2 is V pi. So, what will be the current flowing through C2? The current flowing through C2 will be the voltage across C2 upon impedance of C2. Impedance of C2 is 1 by SC2. So, the current flowing through C2 is SC2 into V pi. Since this is open, so the complete current will flow through inductor L. Now, what is the voltage at node C? What is the voltage at node C? Let us see, it is a Vc. So, just calculate it. What will be the voltage at the collector node? The current flowing through inductor, we know that is SC2 into V pi. So, we can write it as Vc minus V pi, Vc minus V pi, this voltage is V pi. So, Vc minus V pi, the voltage difference across inductor is equal to the current flowing through inductor, that current is SC2 into V pi, that is the current into impedance of inductor is S into L. So, from here you can calculate Vc, and this Vc is V pi into 1 plus S square into Lc2, fine. Now, this is just the equivalent circuit. Now, apply the KCL at node C, apply KCL at node C. Now, you can understand that one current is your SC2 V pi, that is the first term, another current is your GM V pi, that is the second term, and this R and C1 are in parallel. So, what will be the current flowing through R and C1? Since R and C1 are in parallel, so the current will be the voltage upon total impedance, equivalent impedance of R and C1, that is your Z equivalent. This Z equivalent, it can be written as Vc into Y equivalent, because admittance is equal to 1 by impedance. So, whenever the capacitor is in parallel, so it is better to use admittance approach, the calculation will be easier. So, you can see that how we are getting this third term. This is the voltage, 1 plus S square Lc2 into V pi at the collector node into admittance, that is 1 by impedance, right. So, in admittance what will happen? The admittance of resistor R will be 1 by R, the admittance of C1 will be SC1. At when the two admittances are in parallel, then both the admittance will be added, that is why it is 1 by R plus SC1. So, you can use the impedance approach also, there is no issue. So, this equation we are getting by applying KCL at node C. Now, put S equal to j omega and separate the real term and imaginary term. So, these things we have already done in RC oscillators. Now, after doing this, this is your real part and this one is your imaginary part. Then of course, the equation is real part plus imaginary part is equal to 0. It means that your imaginary part will be 0 and your real part will also be 0. And if we put imaginary part is equal to 0, then after putting imaginary part equal to 0, then we will get omega naught is equal to 1 upon under root L into C1 C2 upon C1 plus C2. So, from here we can calculate F naught will be 1 upon 2 pi under root L into C1 C2 upon C1 plus C2, fine. Now, if we put the real part equal to 0 and if we put the value of omega naught in this real part, then we will get C2 by C1 is equal to Gm into R. That is the condition for sustained oscillation, but to start the oscillation, this Gm into R should be greater than C2 by C1 to start the oscillation. Gm is the transconductance of the transistor. So, basically this L1 by L2 and C1 by C2, it determines the feedback factor, and this is very important because by adjusting the values of L1 by L2 and C1 by C2, we can start the oscillations. So, this is the calculation of the frequency of oscillation of Colpitts oscillator. Similarly, we can do the calculation for the frequency of oscillation of the Hartley oscillator. Again, what we have to do? We need to draw the equivalent circuit. So, we have already understood the equivalent circuit of Colpitts oscillator. Just replace those two capacitors C1 and C2 with inductor L1 and L2, and again apply the KCL, and after applying the KCL, put imaginary part equal to 0, then we will get omega naught is equal to 1 upon under root L1 plus L2 into C. So, from here we can calculate the F naught for Hartley oscillator, that is 1 upon 2 pi under root L 1 plus L 2 into C, fine. Similarly, we can get the condition for sustained oscillation to start the oscillations for Hartley oscillator, as we have got it for Colpitts oscillator. So, in this class I have discussed about Colpitts oscillator and Hartley oscillator, and we have calculated the frequency of oscillations for Colpitts oscillator. This is the reference. Thank you.